Hey, what is up, mortals? It is Sam Gabriel here, and before we get into today's video, there are a few things I would like to say. Firstly, a thank you to everyone who worked on this project from beginning to end, and secondly, we would like to announce the WTC Naruto Minecraft server, which will be acting as the sponsor of today's video. On the WTC Naruto server, you can play as a ninja and build your own village. There are many different clans for you to choose from, so it would be awesome if you joined us over there. Now lastly, this is a complete series video. So if you're interested in seeing more of this sort of video, then make sure to leave a comment in the comment section and leave a like. It really does help. Anyway, with that out of the way, let's get into the video.
Following the hand was a face covered by another disembodied hand. Following the hand-masked face, the portal burst open with more and more villains flooding into the USJ. Aizawa was the first to react, instructing the kids to stay close together and not to move. After taking charge, he instructed 18 to keep the class safe and informed the students that they were villains. The one with hands all over his body made their intention clear, to kill All Might. He immediately threatened the students in an attempt to bait him out. Planning to take the villains on alone, Eraserhead started instructing the students. As he jumped into battle, Ida and Midoriya started instructing everyone out of the building, with Izuku getting distracted and looking back in amazement at Aizawa. Ida caught his attention again, telling him, "Focus! We have to evacuate! This is no time for analysis!" But it was too late. A man seemingly made of dark mist appeared in front of them. He introduced the group as the League of Villains and reaffirmed what they were there to do. Bakugo, Kirishima, and Midoriya were the first to react, going on the offensive. Katsuki and Eijiro went with a frontal attack, using a right and left hook powered by their quirks respectively. Using this as a distraction, Midoriya charged up to 5% of One For All into his legs and ran behind them, as if charging for a frontal attack just as his classmates were. As the two in front of him made contact, he jumped into the air, flipping over the Mistman and threw two of his captured knives that were sheathed in his gloves. Both of them hit their target, a metal part that he suspected was connected to a physical body in some way. His suspicions were confirmed when the tips of the knives depressed and let loose their wires, wrapping around and then electrocuting the villain, stunning him. Using the opportunity, 13 instructed the duo that attacked from the front to get back and for Izuku to get out of the building to get help. Immediately, Midoriya gained some distance as the other two retreated, but the villain wasn't down for long. As soon as he got up, the Mistman gave chase to Izuku. Seeing this, Katsuki and Eijiro went after him again, with Bakugo screaming at the villain. Fed up with the students, he turned around and enveloped the group in a shadowy mist, teleporting some of them away, including his pursuers. By the time he was done, Midoriya was already outside. He kept running for a while after he got out of the USJ, finding a secluded area before taking out his phone. All Might and Principal Nezu were discussing Toshinori's stubbornness and settling for tea when the pro-hero's phone went off. After a quick apology, he checked who was calling, only to be perplexed by it being none other than his successor. He answered the phone, a bit of worry creeping upon him.
"Young Midoriya? Why are you calling? Did something happen?"
On the other side of the phone, his slightly out-of-breath apprentice spoke. "A group calling themselves the League of Villains showed up at the USJ saying they came to kill you. Aizawa and 13 are fighting them off right now, but I don't know how much longer they can keep fighting. You need to get here as soon as you can and bring backup. I got away with the help of everyone else in order to call for backup, but they're still in the building. They got in with a villain who can open portals using some sort of black mist." All Might solemnly said, "Understood," before he hung up, and bulked into One For All. He gave a couple-word summary to Nezu, telling him to gather other teachers for backup as he was heading out. Putting his phone back into one of his pouches, Izuku started heading back to the USJ. He felt he needed to do something, to help in some way, because the teachers and students were clearly outnumbered, and if the group was really strong enough to take down All Might, then they were outmatched as well. His suspicions were confirmed when he got back. 13 looked like she got a dose of her own quirk, the students were scattered, Aizawa was on the losing end of a battle, and the hand villain was approaching Tsuyu and Mineta, who were in the water next to land. The mist villain and a hulking bird-faced villain with its brain showing were standing near Aizawa and the rest. One For All coursed through his legs as he ran at them faster than he had ever moved before. In this urgent situation, he was able to push himself to 8% of One For All. In what felt like an instant to him, he was on top of the hand-covered villain, pushing his head into the ground with one of his hands, crouching on top of his back, and a hunting knife in the other hand pressed against the back of the villain's neck. The man dug his heels into the ground, starting to disintegrate it where he touched it. Shaking in anger, he said one word,
"Nom, Nomu,"
and it sounded like a command. Before Izuku could even attempt to figure out what it meant, he was sent flying into the water in front of him in one swift hit by the giant bird-headed villain. The handman kept his attention on Midoriya, more and more anger and bitterness driving his actions. He hastily grabbed his face, only for nothing to happen. The man addressed Aizawa.
You really are pretty cool, Eraserhead.
His quirk had been cancelled by the Eraser hero, who was barely standing, beaten to a bloody pulp and ready to collapse. Before anything else could happen, the doors to the USJ opened with a boom, and a muscular, blond man stood in the doorframe, lacking his signature smile. He addressed the giant room with a simple statement. Fear not, I am here. In only 2 quick hops, he took out a large group of villains in front of him, reached Eraserhead, and then retrieved Midoriya, Tsuyu, and Mineta, bringing them a relatively safe distance away from the threat. Izuku watched as All Might went after the Nomu with a Carolina smash, only for it to have no effect. Immediately, the creature returned the attack and All Might dodged. He sent another punch flying into the side of his opponent, only for the result to be the same. Nothing. The hand-clad villain gloated about the Nomu's shock absorption quirk, telling the hero he'd have a better chance of ripping the Nomu apart. In response, All Might thanked the man before performing a suplex, putting the giant creature into the ground, thoroughly impressing and reassuring the students. Mineta cheered as Tsuyu spoke words of relief. The only one that was worried was Midoriya. Izuku knew All Might's secret, and the time limit mixed with the injury scared him. When the dust settled from All Might's attack, they found him still holding on to the Nomu, but it wasn't stuck in the ground. A portal opened up where All Might had been aiming, and the top half of the creature was underneath the symbol of peace, looking up at the man with its claws digging into his side and blood dripping from the hero's mouth. He got hit where his injury was and couldn't break free from the Nomu's grasp. The group of villains planned on dragging All Might halfway through the portals and cutting him in half by closing them on him. The arms started slowly but surely dragging him into the portals. As he got closer and closer to getting cut in half, Izuku told Tsuyu to take Aizawa to safety. He rushed toward the villains, sword in hand with One for All powering his legs at 8%, only to be joined by a familiar, angry, explosive blonde shouting at it. Get the hell out of my way, Deku! Bakugo hit the mist villain with an explosion and slammed him to the floor, taunting him. Shortly after, half of the Nomu froze over, the culprit being the one and only Shoto Todoroki, who proceeded to say that the villains weren't capable of killing the symbol of peace. As all of this was happening, Izuku was fighting the hand villain. He used an aggressive combination of slashes and kicks to push the villain back. Every attack the villain dodged was retaliated against, with swiping and grabbing that missed Izuku. Neither one was able to land a hit on the other until Kirishima hit the villain in the side using his quirk while he was dodging to the side of one of Midoriya's kicks. With the opening the 4 students brought him, All Might was able to get out of the weakened Nomu's grip. Bakugo threatened the Mist Man and mocked him, announcing that he knew the villain's weakness due to Deku's stupid knives, as he phrased it. The hand-covered villain commanded the Nomu to deal with Bakugo. By the time he sent out the command, he was already pinned by Midoriya in a way that prevented him from using his quirk. Izuku lost focus when he heard the command and got thrown off of the hand villain. Pushing itself out of the portal, the Nomu broke the frozen part of its body into nothing and quickly started regenerating its missing body parts. It rushed at Katsuki faster than any of the students could perceive, and just barely, All Might was able to push the blonde out of the way. Right when it seemed like the battle was going to reach its climax, the rest of the teachers appeared and surrounded the villains. Snipers made their presence known by shooting down a villain that was keeping Kaminari hostage and shooting at the Nomu. The Mist Man addressed the hand villain. Tomura Shigaraki, we have to leave. The hand villain Shigaraki was being pursued again by Izuku and responded in haste.
Kurogiri, grab Nomu and get us out of here now. It's game over. Guess we gotta try another time.
What was left of the League of Villains left, swearing to kill All Might the next time they met. Shigaraki dropped under one of Izuku's punches and disappeared into a portal on the ground. After they left, the teachers and students regrouped, making sure everyone was accounted for and unharmed. The only injuries were Aizawa's arms being crushed and his eyes messed up, and 13 having lacerations on her back and left arm. The police took everyone's statements, while All Might used the rest of his time to reassure the students and help keep everyone calm. Later, Detective Naomasa Tsuko found and talked with Izuku and All Might about the incident at the school. That night, Midoriya sent a message to his former master, Stain, for the first time in a while. The two had kept in touch, but they didn't exactly talk. They kept each other somewhat up to date with what was going on in their lives. Stain's messages were usually vague and served more as a way to tell Izuku that he was still alive. The last time he had messaged Stain had been when he got One for All. He told his former master that he had finally awakened his quirk, and had been one of the few instances of an extremely late bloomer. It was one of the only times he got an immediate response back or a proper response at all. It was a simple congratulations, but it was more than enough to make Izuku happy. His message this time was a warning about the League of Villains and telling him that they attacked UA in an attempt to kill All Might. He got another proper response back from Stain this time, just a simple, "Got it." The next day at school, Eraserhead came back, completely recovered and ready to teach, shocking the entire class. After everyone settled down, he announced that the UA Sports Festival was coming up soon, and that the top heroes would be scouting them out, and that they needed to proceed with the sports festival to show that a small villain attack couldn't shake up UA High School.
Thank you all for sticking around, and I hope that you enjoyed. Before you leave, we would just like to let you know that We the Celestials has many other channels for your entertainment and viewing purposes. All the information you'll need is right below here in the description, so feel free to check out all the other incredible projects our team creates. Secondly, on behalf of We the Celestials, I'd like to thank everyone involved in the production of today's awesome content. Their details will be in the description below. That's all for today's video, so goodbye and have a divine day.